February 2016, so almost 6 years ago, I uploaded the first 5 running the game videos. I was motivated by a lot of things. Actually, we'll talk about that. But I had no idea that 100 episodes later, we would have our own office. We'd still be making running the game videos with no end in sight. Running the game has changed my life, and actually quite a few people's lives in one way or another. So I thought, episode 100, let's talk about how we got here. What's it all about? Where are we going? But first, I thought it would be fun to revisit a kind of precursor to running the game. 2014, 2 years before I started making D&D videos, 5th edition was brand new and attracting a lot of new dungeon masters. This was before Stranger Things or streaming D&D campaigns. And I posted a message on /r/D&D with advice for new DMs. And it blew up a little. It got picked up by Kotaku for some reason. And I thought it would be fun to sort of revisit where I was in 2014 and what I thought was good advice back then and whether it still holds up. Then we'll look back at the channel and see how it's going and what's next. All right, here we go. Thursday, July 17th, 2014. This is a thread I posted on Reddit, advice to new GMs. Notice that I said GMs and not DMs. I still switch back and forth somewhat randomly. Here's my advice to a first-time DM coming from someone who's been running the game almost every week since 1986. Don't get overwhelmed by this. Just take what seems easy and come back for the rest once you've run the game. There's a quote in Lawrence of Arabia where the old mullah in Faisal's tent says, "Recite then as much of the Quran as may be easy to you. God knoweth that there be some among you sick, while others travel through the earth in quest for the bounties of God. Others do battle in his cause. Recite, therefore, as much as may be easy." In other words, there's no point overloading the student and acting like every lesson is of maximum importance and it must all be committed to memory. Take what inspires you, leave the rest. If you need more advice later, we'll still be here. It's important that folks feel at ease. This is fun. Running D&D is fun. Don't think you have to commit this entire playlist to memory. In fact, this is why we're going back and scrubbing the numbers out of the titles of running the game. We don't want people thinking, 100 episodes? Just to run D&D, forget it. Right, I got started with 0 episodes and I managed it. Really, I think all you need are those first 5 episodes. Everything else is commentary. Go forth and learn. Okay, so here's the first real piece of advice. Make a list right now of male and female names, maybe 10 of each that you think are appropriate to your setting. Clip it to your DM screen or whatever. Anytime you need a name for an NPC, just grab the next name on the list. The goal here is to be able to make up an NPC and instantly know their name. The players will go places and meet people you haven't thought of, and if you can say at the drop of a hat, the guard's name is Fandrick, it will seem to your players that these NPCs are real people who really exist, and you're not just making it all up. Wow, there is a lot to unpack here. First, names are important, period. But I think this advice maybe obscures the real goal. The goal is verisimilitude, the appearance of reality. That's what this list of names thing is in service to, so don't get distracted. NPC names are just one example of the larger point, which is that it is your job to present a world that is sufficiently believable so the players can relax and suspend their disbelief. They want to believe. That's the good news. All you got to do is give them enough reason to believe, and they'll do the rest. To me, presenting the people in your world as real, three-dimensional, with their own motivations that are mundane, relatable, and which have nothing to do with the heroes and their goals is what's really important. You got to punt on a name every now and then. That's not the end of the world. I think this is good advice, but it's not really about the list of names. It's more about suspension of disbelief. But in the absence of a 20-minute video, I think this advice gets the job done. Number 2. Listen to your players. That's good advice. They will come up with shit you never thought of, but they don't know you didn't think of it. I bet there's a secret way in. Hey, that's a good idea. You know, I think this guy works for the bad guys. Hey, that's a good idea. Don't say no, just make them roll. If they roll so high you think, wow, well then the answer is now yes, even if it wasn't before. Is there a secret way in? I don't know. Give me a perception check. 30? Wow, yeah, there is a secret way in. The point is never yes or no. It's about letting the players think the answer was up to them, their ingenuity, their good die rolls. This is very weird advice. It got called out in the comments, and rightly so. The actual point is just listen to your players and allow yourself to be inspired by them. An investigation check of 30 should not automatically mean anything. There might not be anything to find. Players roll dice for all sorts of reasons. But the idea that you might decide to change the adventure because of some astonishing die rolling is a good one. I've done it. I literally added a secret entrance to a keep because the players thought there might be one, and they rolled so well, I didn't want to disappoint them or lose the momentum of their enthusiasm. But that's only happened a couple of times, and this advice makes it sound like a rule. Nope, the only rule is listen to your players and be open to their ideas. Number 3. If the players get bogged down, lose the thread, nothing happens for 10 minutes while they bitch at each other or check their iPhones, you can see what's coming, right? Say, okay, roll initiative and throw a random encounter at them. Sometimes you gotta light a fire under their ass. Even if it doesn't move the plot forward, a cool fight is better than sitting around doing nothing. Orcs attack. Wow, yeah, that's good advice. I still believe that. It's amazing how throwing some random orcs at the party can unstick them. When the battle's over, they'll go back to the previous problem, but they'll be in a different mental state and probably make progress now. I reference random encounters in here, but a random encounter has its own purpose. Orcs attack is not technically a random encounter, but that's a very noodly point. Okay, that was easy. Number 4. Hey, I made a list. It's one of those videos that are so popular. Resist the urge to tell the players what's going on behind the screen. When the magic is working, the players believe in your world as a real place. If you pull the curtain back and show how clever you were, well, there wasn't a secret door here until you rolled a 28, then you gain a brief rush, but you lose suspension of disbelief. Your players should never be thinking, I wonder what Matt Colville wants us to say. They should think, I wonder what this NPC expects us to say. Yep, that's good advice. I still believe that. Stand by it. No comment. A+. Good job, 2014 Matt. Number 5. If they're arguing about what to do, they are playing the game. Let them argue. If they're arguing about a rule, they are not playing the game. They are pissing each other off. Make a ruling and let them know you'll figure out the real answer after the game. It's fair and it keeps things moving. This is so important. I often see folks act like if the players spend an hour arguing about what to do, that they're wasting time. No, they are playing the game. They are arguing because they care about what's going on, and that means they are invested. Just sit back and enjoy the show. And listen. Arguing about the rules is a different matter. The value of making a ruling on the spot that's fair and letting everyone know you'll look up the real rule later is so important. It's one of the most important skills for a DM. Now, I will say, if I think this is a rule that's going to come up a lot, I will literally stop the game and look it up and make sure. Usually I'll say, let's all look it up and see who can find it first to save time. But if it's something that's going to come up every session, it's probably best to stop and figure it out now so you get it right and you learn it correctly, and then you don't have to unlearn the wrong rule later. But apart from that, yeah, make a ruling, make it fair, and move on. Making a ruling on the spot used to be like the number one most important quality in a dungeon master. I think times have changed and not necessarily for the better. Number 6. How many of these are there? Oh, only 8. Almost done. 10 would have been better. Figure out what the bad guys want, and then figure out what would happen if the players never showed up. This can be some work on your part, but the results are amazing. If you know what the bad guys want and what their plan was before the heroes show up, you'll be able to improvise their actions easily once the heroes interfere. Yeah, this is good advice. I think it's easier when it's an adventure you dreamed up. You invent the villain, you decide what they want and how they're going to get it. But in any event, knowing the villain's plan and what would happen if the heroes never showed up means you can advance the clock anytime you need to. When the villains act to further their agenda, that ramps up the tension, but the advice isn't over. Remember, the bad guys want to win. They don't know they're fighting the heroes. This is very true. The bad guys want to win. We were playing D&D at Pandemic Studios and the players were in over their heads and they talked themselves into thinking this encounter must be level appropriate. Otherwise, why did Matt put it in front of us? Surely Matt will take it easy on us now that we're losing. And I looked up from calculating damage and I said, the bad guys want to win. And my friend Jordy played that back in his head and he said, we got to get out of here. The earth elemental steps on your head to make sure you're dead is just the fun, dramatic way of saying the bad guys do not know they're the villains in an RPG. They should act accordingly. They should do the kinds of things to the heroes that the heroes are going to do to them. Okay, same bullet point, more advice. Any bad guys smart enough to use weapons are smart enough to realize that hostages have a value. An unconscious PC means money to the bad guys. If the heroes are losing, a couple of PCs are unconscious, have the bad guys make an offer. We'll let you leave, but we're keeping your unconscious friends here. We'll give them back if you come up with 5,000 gold pieces or whatever it costs for the heroes to sell a precious magic item. Players go insane when the bad guys act like intelligent, thinking beings. They love it. Plus, hostage taking leads to great adventures. Also, it means players who might otherwise die will live. This is important. Yeah, bad guys, especially low-level enemies like goblins and orcs, when they behave intelligently, the players get excited because they like it when the enemy acts intelligently. It makes the world seem more real, and it means the players need to up their game. Okay, number 7. Use a GM screen. It's okay if the evening ends in a total party kill because the heroes were relentlessly stupid, but it's not okay if it ends that way because you didn't realize how tough these monsters were. Fudge dice rolls to correct your mistakes, not theirs. Wow, I'm actually surprised at how short and to the point that is. That is good advice. Do not let the very online DMs trick you into thinking that fudging die rolls is somehow a moral failing. Encounter design doesn't stop just because you rolled initiative. If you're anything like me, every single encounter you put in front of your players is an untested prototype, and the people sitting on the other side of the screen are your poor guinea pigs. Remember that. Take it easy on them. If the encounter turns out to be a lot harder than you thought, no reason they should pay for it. Lastly, number 8, err on the side of the players. You have unlimited power, they do not. If they think their PC should be able to sneak attack a zombie, but that doesn't make sense to you and you can't find a rule in a timely manner, say, okay, sure, I may look that up later and see if it's strictly according to the rules, but for now, let's say you can do it. That's it. That's the last piece of advice, and I think it's pretty good. I used this advice in Dusk just last week. It's evergreen. I'm the DM. I have basically unlimited power to challenge the players. If they base their decisions on a misinterpretation of the rules, like they read their ability wrong and certainly would not have gotten themselves into this situation if they knew how it really worked, I'm fine saying, okay, it works the way you thought it did this time, but next time we play it by the rules. You can make exceptions, even one-time exceptions. Give the players a break. So, 8 pieces of advice I posted on Reddit 7 years ago, and I think they mostly hold up. The post got a lot of juice, and it made me think. I had a blog for years that I enjoyed writing for, but it never really took off. Then I had a movie podcast with my friend David. That was fun, but it was a lot of work, and while it got more attention than the blog, it also never really took off. And I was watching a lot of YouTube in 2014. Still am, actually. Folks like Marcus Brownlee and Hank and John Green really inspired me, and I thought, if they can make it on YouTube, maybe I could. To me, making it literally just meant a lot of people watching. That was it. So this is sort of the origin story of how I started making these videos, appropriate for video number 100, I think. My last, meaning previous, but also maybe final? Probably not. But my last video game job, we were getting ready to release this big AAA game for which I was the lead writer. And in the run up to launch, we started doing these Meet the Developer live streams. We weren't really allowed to show off the game, because of course we weren't, but we could talk about making it. And one day, my friend who was running the live streams said, I'm going to put you on the stream today. You can talk about the lore of the game. I didn't think that was a good idea. People generally do not want to see a doughy, middle-aged white dude if they can avoid it, but she impressed upon me the fact that she had run out of people she could bully to be on the stream, and I could not argue with that. But as it turned out, the lore streams were a big hit. They were our most popular stream because the game wasn't out yet, and folks weren't generally interested in animation or lighting. They were interested in the game. Talking about the lore, about the world and the characters, sort of acted as a substitute. Can't play the game, but I can imagine the world. I can imagine who I'd be playing. So that made me think, maybe I could do this YouTube thing. Maybe people would put up with a bloated warthog. So thanks to my friend Jess for giving me the confidence I needed. Then the question was, what would my YouTube channel be about? D&D was obvious, but D&D like how? I'd been running D&D at Turtle Rock Studios for a while, and I noticed there were players I thought would make good DMs. And every time I brought this up, they would say, oh, I could never do what you do, which was discouraging. I was hoping they would be inspired to get behind the screen, but instead they were intimidated. So that bugged me. I was watching an entire new generation of players being born, but no one wanted to DM. When I was a kid, almost every player wanted to get behind the screen. Then my friend Wes, who had been a player in an earlier game, was at work late and saw us playing and came into the conference room to hang out. And I said, hey, come sit over here by me. He was excited to see behind the screen, see where the magic happened. But as he watched me run and read my notes, he literally said out loud, this is it? Yeah, this is it. Well, hell, I could do this, he said. That's when the light went on. The channel should be about learning to DM. Not just learning, encouraging you to be a DM. The premise of these videos is that it's actually fun and easy. It only looks complex from the other side of the screen. Maybe a better way of putting it is, it's only as complex as you make it. And when you're getting started, it can be simple. But what would be in these videos? Well, not unusually for me, I originally imagined something pretty complex. I would record my game with multiple cameras and then use that footage to illustrate whatever the lesson was about. That sounded exciting and new, so we tried it. This picture is from 2014, and you can see me and Jerry and Ray setting up a bunch of Logitech cameras. But it turns out if you plug 6 HD webcams into one USB bus, you overload that bus. So after wrestling with this setup for a while, we gave up. I don't know why, but it took me over a year to give up on the idea of using footage from my actual games to illustrate a running the game video. And since I couldn't get that footage, I made no progress all throughout 2015. Then it finally occurred to me, I could just do the video direct to camera without the footage. As soon as I thought of that, it became obvious this was the right way to do it. Ditching the actual play footage meant anytime I had an idea for a video, I could record it. I wouldn't have to wait for any footage for my game. I got real excited at this stage. This would have been December 2015. I got a modest Christmas bonus at work. I think it was like a $500 gift card. And I went over to Best Buy and I bought this camera. This is a Nikon D3300, and this is the camera I shot like the first, I don't know, 20 videos on, maybe more. As soon as I could ditch this stupid thing, I did. I got it because it shoots in 60 FPS, and at the time, almost no one on YouTube, certainly no one on D&D Tube, was shooting in 60. So my videos were crispy, and people commented on that. But the flip side was, you can only shoot 10 minutes of video on this. After 10 minutes, it just stops. No beep or anything, no light. So those early videos were incredibly frustrating to make because I would just forget about the 10-minute limit. I'd be babbling along for half an hour and then go, shit, as I realized the camera shut off 20 minutes ago and I had to do it all again. It's like that because that lets them import these as regular photography cameras, not video cameras, and that saves on import duties. But this is how I got started. I had the camera and a Heil PR30 microphone, which I would have just right out of shot. And after I was done recording, I would have to edit all the 10-minute chunks together into one video. Then I could start editing that video. It was a nightmare. As soon as I could, I upgraded to this thing. This is the Sony NEX VG30, which was already old when I started recording. So you could get these for as cheap as like $900. And even this thing only shot in 10-minute increments. But it would automatically just keep shooting. It would just make another 10-minute video file, and it took special proprietary software to stitch all the 10-minute bits together into one video. So it was better than the Nikon, but still a pain in the ass. The lens was killer though, and worked way better in low light. The whole time I was using this thing, I had to flood my entire office with light just to get it to look normal on screen. Shooting video was actually pretty painful as I was just being blinded by light the entire time. But one must suffer for one's art. Eventually, I started using the Panasonic Lumix GH5, which is how we shoot everything now. We looked at some very expensive cameras, but this thing is all we need. Folks often ask in Twitch chat, hey, I want to start my own YouTube channel. Do you have any advice? Well, I do. I have 2 pieces of advice. First, make it look and sound as good as you reasonably can. This is sort of the opposite of the normal advice, which is don't worry about your gear, just get started making content. That is bad advice. Presentation is part of design. How your videos look and sound affects how people perceive them. So do everything reasonable to get your videos looking and sounding as good as possible. Whenever I say this, folks come out of the woodwork and they say, Matt's wrong. You don't need to spend a lot of money. I didn't say anything about money. I didn't say you had to spend any money. Maybe all you have is a phone. Well, spend some time learning its settings or the best way to light your room and start experimenting. Figure out how to get the best image and audio quality out of this thing. Actually, if you have a modern flagship phone, the default video settings are probably pretty good. Phones have generally crap cameras on them, but they make up for it with tons of software that make your video look good. I shot the first couple of running the game videos several times before you folks ever saw them. I shoot them once, show them to my friends, get feedback, and do it again. Each time I tweaked the background, the lighting. Maybe you don't have any money. Spend your time figuring out how to get the best video and audio out of your setup. Don't let someone convince you that how your videos look doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. The other piece of advice I have is watch a lot of YouTube. I've seen folks try to do what I do, and you can tell they don't get it. They don't have an opinion about what makes a good YouTube video Probably because they don't watch a lot of YouTube. YouTube has been my primary source of entertainment now for at least 10 years, probably longer. It's one of my main sources of music. I use YouTube at least as much as Spotify. When I wake up, I check out my subscription feed to see what's new. While I'm working, I have some jam on in the background, got a whole playlist of them. I don't think you can fake it. I don't think you can succeed on this platform without engaging with this platform. So that's my advice on getting started making YouTube videos. Make your video and audio quality as good as you reasonably can, and watch a lot of YouTube. Develop your own ideas about what makes a good video. One thing folks who aren't paying attention often say is, Matt made this video long or short to suit the algorithm. I have literally never done that. When we were starting out, I wanted to make short videos, like under 12 minutes, because I thought that was about the right length for an advice video. I had my own ideas about what made a good video. But I gave up on that pretty quickly, and now every video is as long as I think it needs to be. Some people are sad this video isn't longer. Some people bounce off a video because they see how long it is. You can't please everyone. Don't bother trying. I don't chase the algorithm for two reasons. First, I don't think anyone really knows what the algorithm is. Every time I see someone point to some new technology and say, machine learning, I take a close look at it, and it usually looks like something you can do with just a relational database and a lot of hand tuning. So I do not trust the commenters who are sure they know how the algorithm decides who sees which videos. Also, I think YouTube changes its logic all the time. No point trying to game the system when it's inside a black box and it changes randomly anyway. I launched the first 5 videos in February of 2016, and they were immediately popular. People were watching them. Not a lot of people, not like now, but it was steady growth. It helped that I recorded the first 5 videos all at once and then released them all at once because I wanted to make sure if someone found the first video, they didn't have to wait for the second one. They could watch all 5 right out of the gate. I still think all you need are those first 5 videos. I was lucky because I had a blog and a podcast before that, so there was a small audience ready for this, and I had a lot of friends in game development who shared the videos. But really, I just got lucky that Stranger Things came out, 5th edition was hugely popular, and suddenly people were streaming their D&D games. Streaming D&D is a major advancement in the history of the hobby, because however entertaining it may be, it is hugely useful for introducing people to the hobby. I cannot overstate how important this is. For the first time, nerds who love D&D could send their friends, relatives, coworkers a video and say, it's this. And those people who thought D&D sounded weird because they'd never seen it, or they had seen it and it looked weird, could watch people playing D&D and it just seems fun. It seems like a lot of fun. Which it is. Being able to just show people this is D&D and have it look fun and creative and dramatic and actually sort of cool. That acted as a huge force multiplier for the hobby. In terms of growth and engagement, I think we'll be able to divide the history of the hobby into before and after streaming. So Stranger Things comes out, and it reminds many thousands of people about how much fun D&D was when they were in junior high school or whatever, or it showed new people how much fun D&D is. And we get a new edition of the game, which brought in a bunch of new DMs. Now, unfortunately, 5th edition was designed and came out before Stranger Things and the explosion of streaming. So 5th edition is designed as a kind of legacy game. It's designed to appeal to grognards like me, and I think those decisions are starting to kind of show their age. But it got the job done. Then we get streaming D&D, which inspires thousands of people to get behind the screen, and they needed help, and they found my channel. Someone tweeted at me years ago and asked, to what do you attribute your apparent overnight success? And I just said, luck. Twitter did not like that. Folks do not like imagining that the world is basically random. They want to imagine there's a plan, there's meaning. If someone's a success, it's because of hard work. Sure, I said, but lots of people worked hard, harder than me, and they still labor in obscurity. Ah, but they don't have your charisma, Twitter howled. I mean, maybe, but there's lots of hardworking, charismatic people on YouTube who only have 50 subscribers. The number one factor in the success of this channel is luck. I was in the right place at the right time. My videos dropped just when 5th edition was taking off and when streaming was taking off. I got lucky to be friends with Matt Mercer for like 2 years. Whenever Matt was at a convention on a panel and someone asked him how they could get started as a DM, he'd say, just go watch Matt Colville's videos. Thank you, Matt Mercer. So streaming was huge, but I never really took streaming that seriously after the first few times we tried it with the USB cameras. I never thought we would be entertaining enough to make a stream worthwhile. Then something interesting happened. Wizards of the Coast invited me to their first streaming product launch, the Stream of Annihilation. They flew me up to Seattle and put me up in a hotel for 5 days so that I could play D&D on stream for like 90 minutes. This was June 2017, and the channel was pretty popular, so most folks at this big event recognized me. I met a lot of really cool people there, including Mark Holmes, who is extremely groovy. At one point, I end up in an Uber on my way to the event with 2 other people, one I knew and one I didn't. And the girl sitting next to me, whom I did not know, said, "So who are you?" It's a reasonable question, I thought, and I introduced myself. "Oh, I'm Matt Colville." "Okay, but why are you here?" she asked. "Ah, right. Why was I invited to this event? On the basis of what?" "Oh, I've got a YouTube channel," I said. "Is it very popular?" she asked. You know, my YouTube heroes have like millions of subscribers, so no, compared to them, I am a lowly worm. But I had more subscribers than the average D&D YouTuber, so I didn't really have any way to know what counted as popular. "I don't know," I said, honestly. "I mean, it's doing okay." And then the dude in the passenger seat, who I did know, turned around and said, "Matt is being modest. If there are 3 world-class DMs out there, Matt is one of them." This had a huge impact on me. I felt this sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. I knew the only reason he was saying that was because he had never seen me run. I had a successful YouTube channel about being a DM, and I told stories for my game, and they sounded epic, and I realized in that moment, and it stuck with me the entire week, that people were imagining me as some kind of god-tier DM because they had never seen me run a game. They hadn't seen the real thing, so they were free to create this version of me as a DM in their heads. And I instantly knew that they were imagining me way better than I actually am. An ideal version which no real person could ever live up to. When I got back from that event, I went and found Jerry and said, "I want to try streaming D&D again. I want to spend some money and get better tech and do it for real." Because I knew if folks saw me running, they would say, "That's it? Well, shit, I can do that." Yes, that is why I do this. If you watch me do it, you will think you can do it. That is the reason I do it. I mean, I think there are some ways in which I am a world-class dungeon master, but there are many, many other ways in which I am completely mundane. The DM graphic equalizer has like 12 sliders on it, and no one is ace at all 12 of them. I think Phil is a better DM than me in many ways. For me, the best part of this whole thing is going back to a live stream and watching chat and seeing people saying, "Wait, did you see what he just did?" It may be obvious to you, but we had a lot of people after just like 3 episodes of the Chain of Acheron saying, "I didn't know D&D could be like this. I didn't know you could start above first level. I had never seen a skill challenge before. I didn't know you could go to other planes of existence. I didn't know you could just like steal a Star Trek episode like that." I still see folks in our live streams show up just to tell me they watched the Omega Nails storyline and now they're building an adventure based on their favorite novel or TV episode. Yeah, take the things you love and put them in your game. So when folks are disappointed I'm not more whatever as a dungeon master, more like they imagined I would be, I know why. It's because they built me up into something I am not. But I never wanted to be one of the 3 world-class dungeon masters. I want you to be your group's best dungeon master, and that is why I make these videos. February 2018, almost exactly 2 years after the first Running the Game videos, we launched the Strongholds and Followers Kickstarter, and that changed my life probably more than anything else that has ever happened to me. A lot of grognards saw that Kickstarter take off, and they said, "Who is this dude?" They didn't watch YouTube. They had no idea who I was. But the success of that first Kickstarter was based on the success of this channel. A lot of people weren't particularly interested in rules for strongholds or retainers. They just wanted to say thank you for the videos. And originally, I thought we would all keep our day jobs and produce the Kickstarter in our spare time. But when it exploded and we had to print and distribute like 30,000 books or whatever, and then minis and t-shirts and stickers on top of that, I realized that not only could we not do this in our spare time, trying to do it that way would result in a poorer product. So everyone who helped launch the Kickstarter, Jerry, Anna, Lars, I offered jobs to, and now it's almost 4 years later and we have made a bunch of dope shit for you. Kingdoms and Warfare was a big hit for us, and I think better design. It wasn't just a bunch of house rules I polished up and then got great art for. A whole team of designers worked on it, and it shows. It's a better product. In fact, I would very much like to go back and revise Strongholds and Followers to bring it in line with the quality of Kingdoms and Warfare. And I think I know how to do it. But that won't happen for a little while. We launched the Chain of Akron, we released the Illrigger, we designed and are about to release the Beast Heart, our new class, along with rules for any character who wants a monstrous companion. Pets, basically. And I think each product we make is better than the last. The Beast Heart is the best design we have done so far. All this is possible thanks to these videos and your support. Now it's 100 episodes later and I got scripts in progress for like another 10 running the game videos. But some of those old videos, I think they can be misleading. I don't think it's easy for the audience to tell when I'm talking about something I'm doing now and something I do all the time. Like, for a while, there was this idea of the Colville method for generating stats, which is roll your stats normally, 4d6, drop the lowest, but you place them in order. So your first roll is your strength, second roll is dex, etc. Now, when I said this, and I still think this is a good idea for new players, when I said this, I had a mulligan rule where you re-roll your character if you don't get at least 2 15s. Well, that is bad. Do not do that. That results in hugely overpowered characters. That was something I made up like a month before that video, and I quickly realized this was a huge mistake and I immediately threw it out, but not before recording the video. I think the better method is to add up all your stat mods, all the +1s and +2s, and if the total isn't at least +2, start again. The goal of this method is to stop new players from trying to recreate their favorite superhero or anime character or whatever in D&D. This is really common. New player doesn't know anything about D&D or what kind of character to make, but thinks Batman or Wolverine is super cool, and they become hyper-focused on that idea. The in-order rolling is a great tool to get a new player thinking about their new D&D character and who they might be based on these rolls instead of their favorite superhero and inevitably getting angry when the game mechanics don't support it. And re-rolling, if you don't have at least a total of +2 across all your bonuses, stops you from ending up with a character with less than heroic stats, which is advice straight out of the 1979 AD&D. I've done a few videos on alignment, and I have absolutely another alignment video in me. I think alignment is cool and useful, so you got that to look forward to. We did a video on undead, and we'll do more monster videos. We also did a live stream where I talked about my favorite official D&D setting, but I have pulled it down because the signal to noise ratio on these live streams is it's terrible. So not only will you get a better video about that campaign setting later, you will get a lot more videos about official and unofficial D&D campaign settings. And there are a lot of classic D&D adventures that I think are crazy, which we will cover in future videos. I did a video on the sociology of D&D, which was pretty well received, but I now see it as being a little primitive. I think I would do a better job explaining myself now, but part of the charm of those early videos is that I had no idea anyone would ever see them. But the basic lesson, make sure your game supports more than just your fantasy, make sure your players can find their fantasies in your game, is still good advice. A couple of times a year, we record a running the game video and we stream the process of recording it live on Twitch. And every time we do this, there are people who are amazed to discover A, these videos are scripted. They didn't used to be, but the original videos were often hugely repetitive. Me basically making the same point over and over. Some people liked that because it meant the videos were longer and they seemed more spontaneous. But I don't like watching long and rambling videos. I think it's bad presentation. So now every video starts with a script, and I believe they are better for it. But even weirder, B, people didn't realize these videos were edited. What? Every time we live stream me recording one of these videos, folks say, whoa, I thought it was all in one take, which I honestly cannot imagine how anyone thought that, except a lot of people just have this video on while they're doing something else, so they don't see the cuts. Mind you, some of Jerry's cuts are seamless. Even I have a hard time seeing them sometimes. Starting with video number 80, the politics of war, we started shooting all our videos here at MCDM on the streaming set. And at that point, I think the videos really went up a whole grade in quality. The writing is better, the image and audio quality are better, and they're a lot easier for me to record thanks to Jerry. So if you want to see the effects of that first Kickstarter, which was successful because of the success of these videos, not only did we all quit our jobs and start doing this full time, not only did we get our own office space and we streamed the Chain of Akron, the videos also got better. Starting with the politics of war, I think you get an incredible run of running the game videos. I think all any new DM needs is the first 5 episodes, but the last quarter of this playlist has the videos I am proudest of. The role-playing video, which changed how people saw role-playing. I now see people outside the MCDM community use the phrase doing the voice to distinguish role-playing from speaking in character. Doing the voice is role-playing, but not all role-playing is doing the voice. The local area video, which spawned this awesome form-fillable PDF that thousands of people have used now to get started making a world. Hugely proud of that. Action-oriented monsters not only changed how people see monsters in their game, but basically inspired us to start working on our own monster book. And in a roundabout way, that spawned our upcoming new 5th edition class, the Beastheart. There's the downtime video, which changed how a lot of people saw the space between group adventures and got people thinking about solo play between group sessions. You got the politics of war and the origins of executive power, which wrapped up the wildly popular politics series. I regularly go back and rewatch those, hugely proud of them. So when I look back, I see a channel that's growing, making better videos, and when I open up Google Docs, I see a bunch of new videos I'm excited by. We got a video coming up about goal-oriented rewards, which I think will change how people imagine rewards and player goals and just styles of play in general. We got a video coming up on styles of play, specifically how different editions of D&D encourage different genres of play. We got a video in the pike on the law of unintended consequences. We got a video coming up about better stakes, meaning giving your players something to worry about besides their character dying. We have a playing the game video about what makes a good character ambition. I said I have at least one more video on alignment, and right now it's called Why I Love Alignment. We have a video coming up called Fair Warning about communicating things to your players ahead of time, just to give them some time to think about how their character would respond. We got a video on awarding experience, finally, and a video on retconning, and at least 2 new Dune videos, including my review of the new Dune movie, and a possible video about modern film in general called Why Movies Suck Now. That may not happen, we'll see. So yeah, lots to look forward to, lots to be proud of. If these videos have helped you, I am delighted. It's why I made them. I hope people will be finding these videos 100 years from now when someone wants to get behind the screen. But however much you may have gotten out of these videos, I have gotten more out of them. They changed my life. It is impossible to state how much. I have my own company now. I employ 7 other people. We make shit I am proud of, all of which is an extension of this channel. People like the action-oriented monster video? Well, we're gonna make a whole monster book featuring everything we've learned about monster design since then, which is a lot. I thought it would be cool to make a monthly 5th edition magazine like the old Dragon magazine. We did it. It's a huge hit. $10 and you get almost 50 pages of new content every month. Basically, I use MCDM exactly how you would imagine based on these videos. I want us to make more dope stuff for you, empower you to do more dope stuff at your table. And we do all this paying everyone fairly. We don't just pay our writers and artists well, we promote them as writers and artists. Actually, we've never had an artist stream. That would be fun. We should do that. The most astonishing thing about all this is the community that we built together. I think MCDM has the best community in tabletop. Our Discord is huge and an awesome resource for anyone who has questions about anything we've done. Every day I see new people show up, ask a question about a video, and get an answer. Even when the answer is really tough, like, when did Matt talk about... A lot of the success of this community is down to our moderators. Alex Temujin, Dewey, Hines, In Short Sight, It's the IT Guy, Jim, Ruben Hung, Atsu333, Benoni. You folks rock. You should be proud of the space that we have created together. It is an unambiguously good thing. And special thanks to the king of the mods, John Champion, aka Lord Durock, aka Durock and Roll, Durock the Casbah. I want to end with a story. One of the most amazing things that's happened to me thanks to running the game. I went to see Roger Waters live with some friends in concert, and I got 3rd row center tickets. It felt like I was about 20 feet from the stage. And we get there early, and as we're watching the roadies setting up the instruments, this dude in a suit on with a Staples Center badge walks in front of the stage, stops right in front of us, turns to me, and says, Mr. Colville, welcome to the show. I was like, wow, they do not screw around with the VIP service. But this dude acted like he knew me, and I asked, do we know each other? And he said, you don't know me, but I know you. I was still completely at a loss. It was very surreal. This was only 2 years after we started the channel, and nothing like this had ever happened to me. After I had spent enough time being flabbergasted, the dude says, I am the dungeon master for the Staples Center. And I was like, what? And then he explained he played D&D when he was younger and he hadn't touched it since. And one day he was sort of nostalgic for it and wondering if it was still around. He looks up D&D on YouTube, finds my channel, and decides to start running again. So he emails like the entire Staples Center organization, expecting to get maybe, 3 or 4 people interested. And instead he gets 20 responses. It was super cool meeting the guy. I have only ever had positive interactions with fans. We met a bunch of fans coming out of seeing the new Dune movie, and it was cool getting to talk to them. So that's where we are now, how it all got started and where it's going. More and better videos soon. I mentioned earlier that we're working on our next big hardcover book, the MCDM Monster Book, which I don't know the name of yet. I think just Better Monsters would be a good name, but people like the X and Y formulation, so maybe villains and enemies. Unlike Arcadia or the Illrigger or the Beastheart, there will be a Kickstarter for this book. We're at the point, actually we've been there for a little while now, where we need to know how many people want this book before we decide exactly what's going to be in it. And that is the number one thing Kickstarter is good for. More people means we can make a bigger book. So if you want an alert when the Kickstarter goes live, there is a link below. You will not get spammed. We do not sell anyone's information to anyone ever. If you're looking for news on the Kingdoms and Warfare Kickstarter fulfillment, we just posted a new update, and that's linked below too. The shipping apocalypse really very, very badly damaged our plans, but we're confident that we'll be able to start shipping out packages by the end of February. That's it, folks. Thanks for watching. I don't know how many hours of Matt Colville nonsense, but we made it this far thanks to you. And I genuinely hope you are looking forward to the future, because I think we're just getting started. Until next time, peace out.